Hello, guys. Welcome to yet another exciting episode in our series Solving WASSCE Past Questions. This is your host, Agyapong, and I'm excited that you're joining me today. Without much ado, let's jump right into what we have for today. So, this will be the conclusion of database problems for May June WASSCE. This is 2015 elective ICT paper 3, and as usual, we have 2 hours to answer 3 questions. Now, it is advisable, as I always say, to read the instructions to know what it is expected of you. And this instruction boils down to how we save our folder. So here we are directed to save our folder or our work on the local drive C. So we'll go ahead and do that real quick. I'm Agyapong and my index number is that. So we come back and save all our work in this folder on drive C. So let's go back to our problems and see what we have in store for us. So that will be problem number 2. So here we go. Use an appropriate database application to design a database for a distribution company. Name it client orders in the folder created. So we go ahead, launch our DBMS, which is access here, and we start creating our database. Here we'll browse to the location, that is drive C, where we created our folder as usual, and then we name it as we're being instructed to clients orders. So with that, we can go ahead and enter into our DBMS. Now let's snap our problems side by side so we can read and then solve our problems on the go. I hope this is quite okay. Alright, so here we go. So problem A, create 3 tables as shown below, defining the fields appropriately. So we are creating how many tables? 3. So our first one will be TBL, that's table for clients. And we can begin using the default table created for us. Now looking here, you see that selecting the data types are very important. Looking at this, we can't use number here. It is appropriate. It is just a mix of letters and then numbers. So we can change the data type up here and use short text for this, and then we can rename this to client ID. So we have our client ID here. For the first one, we go to the next one, client name. So basically short text will do for us. Next one, location, they are all words, so we use short text and then save the name of our field, type in that location, and then the last of our field will be telephone. Looking at the structure, we have a special character and then some numbers. It's appropriate we can use short text because using numbers we can't input the plus symbol. Alright, so this looks good, and then we can save this table as TBL clients. So we can go ahead and create the other tables before we start populating our database. So we have TBL, so we go to create in our tab, we want to create a table, and the first primary ID is order ID. So we have order ID here, and data type was set to auto number, but looking at this ID, just a blend of alphabets and the numbers, we're better off using short text. So we go to the next field, we create a client ID that is also a blend of text and then numbers, so we use short text and then we type in the name of our field. The next part we have item ID, same format, a blend of numbers and text. We use short text, and then IT, that is item ID. Then lastly, we go to the order date. Now looking at this date, we can opt to use date and time. But with date and time, let's say order date. Now quickly, let's look at this format of what we have been represented with. And here, even if you're using September, now look here, you can format the way that our time looks like. So this could be like a medium date, right? So for example, when I choose the calendar here and we go to September, now September in medium, for example, if it is 10th, and then we resize this, you see that we're presented with SEP for September and not Sept as written here. So if we need to change anything, probably we just have to type this in manually. So that is one of the things that I can notice here. So if we're actually using a medium date format, because a short date will actually change this into the actual date and time. So let's go back to September and see 10th and see how we'll be given this. So that is basically that. So it is supposed to be medium, but then September should be represented as SEPT, what was given to us. But if you use actually our medium September, you see that it's just SEP. So in that case, it behooves us to just use date and time, so that short text data type, so we can manually type in the date format. So we'll go ahead, save this table. So we go ahead and then we save our second table, that is table orders. So TBL orders. Then that does it. Then we are left with our last table. We create another table. And looking at this, that is table stock. The first ID is a blend of letters and numbers, so we are better off using short text, and then we actually name this field item ID. So that is our first field. We go to the next field, names of items. So short text will do us good, item name. And then lastly, we have quantity in stock. This looks like numbers. So QTY in stock. So this looks good, and then we can go ahead and save our final table as TBL stock. Good. So we have our three tables ready to be populated. So go ahead, pause the video, and then join me after you finish populating your table. So go ahead and then we start populating with the information or data that we have been given here. Alright, so we have done great and have populated our tables. So we have our client table, our orders table, and then our stock tables as instructed. So that is it for question 2A. Now we jump to question 2B. Using the tables, create the relationship. Create the relationships to enable a user to design a form to show the following. So we have some labels here, which are client names, and then a text field, location, telephone number, item name, and then date order. So we go ahead and create a form and then to show this. But before we do this, we have to establish some relationships. So let's go ahead and create a relationship. So we go to our database tools and then hit on relationships. Now the relationships is coming from all these three tables. So we select the tables one by one and then we add them until they are all here. Now looking at our table, we see that there are some primary keys that appear in other tables, that means they are foreign keys. So when we look up here, we can see that item ID is here on our orders table, and then we have our client ID from the client table showing up as a foreign key in our orders table. So this is how we create a relationship. Select the primary key in one that matches with the foreign key in the other table. So client ID, you click, you drag and drop it exactly on its name, its corresponding name, that is the foreign key in the other table. You leave it, you see that yes, they match from both tables. Enforce referential integrity as always, so that we don't leave orphan records around. So we create this, we have an error here. It seems that what you're trying to do is interfering because we have the tables opened. So we go ahead and close these tables which we're trying to create a relationship of. So with anything that happens, you do not panic. Let's see, we still have here. So we're good to go. So we close our table objects, and then we can go ahead and enforce our relationship. So establish our relationship. So client ID from one table matching the same field name, which is a foreign key in the other. And yes, they match, and we create that relationship. We come to the next table. We have item ID matches with item ID here. Yes, enforcing referential integrity. And yes, so we have established a relationship. Can go ahead and right click on this and save. So we have established our relationships. Now we have to design a form showing client name, location, telephone number, and all that. So hit create tab, and then we have our form wizard here. So our form wizard is going to help us navigate, just show which fields that are of interest to us, and then we create the form. So we need the client name. So client name on the client table, that is our first. Then we need the location as well and telephone number. Then we go to the item name, so that will be in the stock table. Item name is there, we bring it in here. And then the last one, we have order date. So date is in our orders table, so the order date here. So that is basically the fields that are of interest to us. We hit next. Now how do we want to arrange this? Creating a subform or linked forms. So we are better off using a linked form. Yes, this looks good, so that they will be in parallel as we see there. So hit on next. How do we want them to be? In columnar. Yes, columnar form, just from up to down. This looks good. And what title do we want to give to our form? We can give form order as we have here. So that will show on top as a title for that, even though it wasn't specified. Then we can modify to finish our form design. So in the end, this is what we have. We are in the design view, and up here was the title that we gave. All right, so now everything looks clean and good. But looking at problem C, insert your full name and system date in the footer. So this is our footer. Let me just maximize so we have a very good view. So this is our footer, and then we are supposed to enter our name and then insert the system date. So we have a label here, we go with a text box. So a text box, just as its name implies, a text. So we are here going to just put a text here. Wait. For this, I think a label will be better. So we have a label, and then we type a full name, that is Kwadwo Agyapong for me. So make sure you type your full name there. So that is that for my label, that is my full name. And then the last part, how do we insert our system time? Now up in here, in your form design tools, in your design tool, you see you have this group header and footer here. And there is one option where we can quickly add the current date and time. So hit on date and time here. And here we're just instructed to include system date and not time. So uncheck this box so we don't include time. And how is the format? Any format that you want to. I hope our problem doesn't specify. So let's look at what. No, there was no specification. So we can choose any of this as the date format. So I'm going with the long one, the day, the month, the day, and then year. All right, so we insert that and let's see what happened. It rather went into the header. So the lazy main will just drag it down here and bring it down below in my footer. And when this is placed as I desire and want, then I can go ahead, change the view to form view, and then see what we've created so far. So looking at this, we're having the pound symbol here, which is telling us something. Do not panic. Let's go to our design view and stretch out our label field so that all the text can go in, because it's going to be a long one. Control S to save, and then we can change views to see, yes, we have our names, that is our full name, and then the system date. So this looks good, and our form looks great. That is retrieving data from these tables that you selected. So that is it for problem number 2, C, and D. Now we have to save our form as form order, and form order has already been saved, so we're good. Now the last part of our problem, problem E, produce the relationship report and save as R_report in the database. So how do we create a relationship report? Now to create a relationship report, go to our database tools, and click on look at relationships. Now when you click relationships, these are the relationships we have already. We go to our relationship tools and then the design. Now in the design, we see under the tools group, you see the command relationship report, and we hit on relationship report and the relationship report is being generated. This is all that is being requested for. So this is a report for relationships that there is, and then we go ahead. How are we instructed to save this? Then we are supposed to save our relationship report as R_report. So right click on this to save, and then R_report. So basically we have answered all questions pertaining to 2015 database problem question 2, and that was for 15 marks. Now when this is done, we save our work, Control S, make sure everything is in there. Then we can close our work and then say goodbye to the database problem. But the important thing is for you to actually verify, as I always advise. So we go into our folder, make sure that yes, our client orders.accdb is there, and all our objects seem to be fine. We have our tables, and then our forms looks great with our footer, full name, and then the system date, and then our relationship report which we created is in there. Thanks guys for joining me. It has been amazing. I hope you guys are practicing to get great at this. It has been enjoyable for me. If this is your first time and you like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, comment, let me know what you guys are thinking and doing. If there are anything for me to address, I'll be glad to assist and help out. As usual, this is Agyapong signing out. It has been great having you guys here, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.